Hello, I welcome you to my presentation on my research project called Sedentary Screen Time, a longitudinal cohort study of adult distance learners. The educational research studies identified many characteristics and attributes of online education, which included digital media, internet connection, and technologies essential to distance education, but these omit the concept of sedentary screen time as a learner characteristic. We'll then move into the proposed problem of the study. Finding a gap in the research literature, this study will appeal to this gap by proposing research on sedentary screen time in distance learning. The study will explore a specific cohort of non-obese adult distant learners ages 25 to 55 years and the amount of sedentary screen time and prolonged sedentary screen time online learners incur over time. These learner behaviors may lead to increased adiposity or fat distribution in the body, increased in body mass index, body weight, and waist circumference, as well as blood pressure measure changes. The distance learner must have access to digital technologies and connectivity to the internet for distance learning to occur, and that distance learning occurs with a computer while seated, hence the sedentary time. Now, from our problem, I will then move to the study purpose, which is a mixed method research designed to investigate a relationship of sedentary screen time among adult distance learners and risk behaviors associated with sedentarism. Educational sciences, behavioral, and social sciences overlook a critical concept of prolonged sedentary screen time for distance education and distance learners. Brown et al., Fincham, Murray et al., Marmon et al., Coleman and Burge. The Association for Educational Communications and Technology, acronym AECT, establishes and implements a code of ethics for professional designers and educators. Among the AECT professional ethics statements is a guideline to make efforts to protect individuals from conditions that may be harmful to health and safety, including the effects of technologies, Reiser and Dempsey, 2018. This being a major issue among characteristics among distance education and learners. However, screen time is an essential characteristic for completing online learning activities. That then brings the purpose of this study. Now, from the purpose, we'll then move toward the study questions that will explore a specific cohort of non-obese adult distant learners ages 25 to 55 years and the amount of sedentary screen time and prolonged sedentary screen time online learners often incur over the time of their degree programs. These questions will come from both mixed methods, being qualitative. These questions will be the amount of time in minutes per day will full-time adult distance learners self-report screen time, sedentary screen time in completing online assignments and coursework. Number 2 research question. How often do adult distance learners record prolonged sedentary screen time measured in 30 minutes per episode or bout per day and per week? Now let's look at the mixed methods quantitative questions. 1. Are there risks associated with non-obese adult distance learners with prolonged sedentary screen time and biometric changes during full-time online studies? Number 2, what is the relationship between sedentary screen time and prolonged sedentary screen time and sedentary risk behaviors to biometric changes of body weight, waist circumference, body mass index, and blood pressure among adult distance learners over time? That is the questions we propose. We'll next move on from our questions to the study hypothesis. Hypothesis 1. If adult distance learners report decreased sedentary screen time to less than 30-minute episodes, they may experience fewer problems associated with prolonged sedentary screen time from baseline to 3-year biometric measures. Hypothesis 2. The sedentary screen time adult distance learners experience will increase the gains to one or all biometric measures of body weight, waist circumference, body mass index, and blood pressure over the time frame from baseline to 3 years. Then, to count both of these hypotheses is the null hypothesis, which states the sedentary screen time of adult distance learners will have no relationship to biometric changes from baseline to 3 years. And that is the hypotheses driving this research process. From the hypotheses, I've developed the methods. Because of time constraints, we'll discuss 3 primary methods. The sample characteristics will be a small to medium-sized cohort of 500 full-time non-obese adult distance learners between the ages of 25 and 55 years enrolled in a distance education program full-time. Gibbs et al. Non-obese adults will be identified by age, enrollment, and having a body mass index less than 29.9. A BMI less than 29.9 is the definition of non-obese. The next item is the instrument. Content validity of the phone interview questionnaire and survey instruments will include items of the study variables intended to be measured. Burns and Grove, 2009. A 15-item electronic survey was developed with 5 demographic and characteristic items, 3 Likert type work activity level items, and 7 Likert type for hours worked per week and study hours for distance coursework, each of these items having alternative response for these items. Burns and Grove, 2019. Then we have the data collection, or how data will be delivered. Participants' self-reported phone interviews, log worksheets, and survey responses at baseline and at 3 years. The number of qualified participants at the 3-year interval will have completed baseline and final interview questionnaire, demographic survey, screen time logs, and biometric measures. The final sample will be used to collect and report the data qualitatively and quantitatively upon analysis. Now, I want to ask, why does this project become meaningful to me? Well, I chose this subject because the topic of sedentary screen time became more appealing when researching distance learning during the coursework over the last year and a half, and having written and produced over 40 annotated bibliographies on distance learning attributes. After these findings, the phenomena of screen time was absent in the educational research literature. Finding a large gap in the research for a field today is significant, and a significant reason to pursue research on this topic. And then, what's personally and professionally, educational studies has not really taken the seasoned nurse out of me. I've been a healthcare professional for 27 years, so I think like a healthcare professional in most aspects of my life, including my full-time distance education, and which is the first of my 3 degrees in nursing that is fully online, is this doctoral degree program. Doctoral studies require so much sit time, sedentary time to write, produce, and complete required coursework. I begin to feel the effects in my personal life, personal wellness, and increase in sedentary risk behaviors, which is not my nature. I ran and completed the 26.2 mile marathon at age 12. I have known strenuous and heavy activity for physical activity most of my life, and this program has been really not my nature. And so that's helped stem this process for this research project. And finally, this leads to the reference